Rain thrashed the rooftops of Bhavnagar as midnight swallowed the city, but far beneath the crashing world above, Detective Raghav Khambhala descended into the forgotten tunnels of his ancestral mansion. Each step echoed like a warning. Dust, thick as secrets, clung to the air. The heavy iron door at the bottom waited with a rusted grin, the same door he had sworn never to open. Yet tonight, something stronger than fear, truth, or maybe love, pulled him toward it. The lock resisted him like an old enemy, groaning as he twisted it. A long, metallic sigh filled the corridor when the door finally yielded. Pale lights flickered awake inside the underground vault. The walls hummed with the low vibration he remembered from childhood, the hum his mother used to sing along with while tucking him into bed. The memory tightened his throat. She had disappeared 20 years ago, a case labeled closed but never solved. And now, the same hum welcomed him back as if she'd just stepped out for a moment. He took a deep breath, entered, and the door clanged shut behind him. At the center of the vault stood Mira, the woman who had slipped into his life only weeks ago, quietly, elegantly, like a shadow with a heartbeat. She wore a simple black dress, but under the stark underground lights, she looked like both a promise and a threat. Her eyes, dark as obsidian, followed every movement he made. Raghav's voice cracked into the cold air. "Why did you bring me here, Mira?" She turned slowly, as if revealing herself was a deliberate act. "Because this is where it all began, Raghav. The place your family buried their truths." Her voice was soft, but each word carried weight, like she was reciting a ritual. He stepped closer, stopping just inches from her. He could feel her breath, calm, almost hypnotic. She raised her hand and rested it on his chest, her fingers cold as marble. He didn't flinch, he was too used to danger, but the chill seeped deeper than skin. It felt like she was touching his fears, not his heart. "Listen," she whispered. The humming in the walls grew louder, vibrating through the metal beams, through the floor beneath their feet. Something ancient, mechanical, alive. Raghav frowned, struggling to understand why it felt familiar, why it stirred memories he couldn't place. "This place," Mira continued, "was your family's sanctuary. And their prison. And now, it's yours." Before he could respond, the lights flickered violently. A shadow slithered across the far wall, long and unmistakably human. A faint scent drifted toward him, jasmine, the perfume his mother used to wear. His pulse jolted. A voice rose from the darkness, fragile yet unmistakably real. "Raghav, you shouldn't have come here." He froze. His breath caught. Mira stepped back, her expression unreadable. Out of the shadows emerged a figure he had mourned for 20 years. His mother. Alive. Watching him with eyes that knew every mistake his family had ever made. And every sin he was about to learn. The air inside the secret archive room felt wrong, too still, too cold, too aware. Raghav Khambhala had walked through countless crime scenes, but none had tasted like this room, none had smelled like this particular blend of dust, formalin, and lies. The Khambhala mansion towered above, grand and respected, but beneath it lay the bones of the truth. Literally. And tonight, CID spotlights cut through the dimness, illuminating what his family had spent decades sealing away. Photographs covered the evidence board, faces of missing children, hospital corridors with masked surgeons, birth certificates with forged signatures. Each photo was a shard of a nightmare, one that pointed straight to the Khambhala family trust. His father's life's work. His family's empire. And now the center of a criminal investigation that threatened to collapse everything Raghav believed about his bloodline. Mira sat alone in a metal chair, wrists cuffed behind her, but nothing about her posture suggested weakness. Her spine was straight, her chin lifted, her eyes sharp as blades. Even in captivity, she radiated an unsettling calm. She watched the investigators, the files, the crime board, watching like someone who already knew the final page of the story. "I want to speak to Raghav," she said without raising her voice. "Only him." The rest of you won't understand. The senior CID officer looked toward Raghav, and after a silent exchange, Raghav stepped forward. His jaw was clenched, his temples tight. The woman he had trusted, maybe loved, was now tied directly to his family's crimes. Or worse, to something far more personal. He stopped a few feet from her. "Talk," he ordered. "Why were you working with my father? Why were you in the mansion before any of this started?" Mira lifted her eyes. There was no fear in them, only a grief so old it seemed fossilized. "Because your father owned my life, Raghav." The words hit him like a blow. "What does that mean?" "He created me," she said, voice steady. "Not in the way you think. Not like a parent. More like a project." The room froze. A CID officer lowered a camera. Another stopped writing mid-sentence. Raghav stepped closer, fighting to keep his voice controlled. "You expect me to believe that?" "I expect you to remember," she replied. "Look at the files. I was part of the program. The underground wing. The experiments." She turned her head toward a board filled with medical diagrams. "Your father raised me with your photographs. Your recordings. Your milestones. Every detail of your childhood. I grew up knowing you, studying you, dreaming of you before I ever saw you." Raghav felt the floor shift beneath him. He couldn't tell if he wanted to yell or collapse. "So what was I?" he whispered. "Your assignment?" Myra's voice softened into something dangerous. "You were my destiny." Before he could respond, the lights died in an instant. Darkness swallowed the room. A single gunshot cracked the silence, echoing through the mansion's hidden halls. When the emergency lights flickered back on, the computer monitors glowed with a new message. "The sweet dream begins." Raghav's footsteps splashed through the shallow water as he raced into the old Bhavnagar tunnels, his breath ragged, his heart hammering with a mix of fury, fear, and something he refused to name. The abandoned water channels twisted like veins beneath the city, carrying the weight of decades of forgotten crimes, but tonight they carried something else, Myra's fading footsteps echoing through the hollow dark. Every sound bounced against the stone walls, disorienting, taunting. The dim emergency lights flickered, throwing shards of yellow across the curved tunnel ceiling, making every shadow look alive. He finally saw her silhouette at the far end, standing perfectly still beneath a circular stone chamber marked with the Khambhala crest. The emblem was carved deep, weathered by time and water flow, yet unmistakable. His family had claimed they built Bhavnagar, the truth was they had built their power on ghosts. Mira stood beneath the emblem like someone standing under a curse. She didn't run when he approached. She didn't turn. Only when he was close enough to hear her breathing did she finally lift her head. Her voice was calm in a way that scared him more than gunfire. "Raghav," she said softly, "your family didn't just build these tunnels. They built destinies here." He aimed his gun at her, hands shaking. The betrayal was too fresh, too raw. She had known the truth, walked beside him like a lover, while hiding the knife of knowledge beneath her tongue. "Tell me everything," he demanded. "No more half-truths. No more riddles." She looked over her shoulder, her eyes shining with something that wasn't fear but something far deeper, an ache, a longing, a regret that had carved itself into her soul long before he met her. "I was meant to be your weapon," she whispered. "Your father shaped me for it. Your mother perfected me. I was created to protect you, and control you." Raghav felt something inside him crack. "My mother," he said, voice barely stable, "is dead." Mira shook her head slowly. "No. She was the architect of everything that happened here. And she's alive because she always stayed one step below the world, underground, just like these tunnels." He couldn't breathe. The air felt thick, damp, poisonous. "You used me," he said. "All of this, everything, was just a design. She stepped closer, lifting his hand, the one gripping the gun, and pressed the barrel gently against her heart. Then pull the trigger. End me if you believe everything was a lie. Her voice trembled for the first time. But if even a part of what we had was real, then don't. Raghav's hand shook so violently the gun nearly slipped. He couldn't shoot her. Even now, even drenched in deception, she was the only truth that felt alive. Before he could decide, a deep rumble rolled through the tunnel walls. Dust drifted from the ceiling. The sound of a detonator's click echoed like a final heartbeat. Myra's eyes widened. She found us. The explosion ripped through the chamber, heat swallowing stone, fire curling like a serpent along the walls. Raghav lunged forward, grabbing Mira as the world collapsed in a shower of burning fragments. The last thing he heard before the darkness caved in was Myra's whisper against his ear. If we survive this, we change everything.